So good to have you with us, Kevin McCullough from New York, back in the AFA Today studios today. And thank you for those of you that sent some nice notes yesterday, mentioned that you miss me and some other things. I was just taken ill in the middle of the day. I don't know if people get these, but I all of a sudden, out of the blue, over about a period of an hour, just ravaged by something that made me run a fever, caused my insides to just feel like I was just about to die. And I got home and went comatose for about 7 hours. And on the other side of it, felt weak, but began to move again. And it was the weirdest thing I've ever had happen to me. But thank you. And thank you to those of you that have written recently and said that you're praying for me and my family. Kevin McCullough just saying, I can't express to you how deeply, deeply grateful I am because you said that. Somebody wrote this last week something about being in New York and being in the line of fire and believing the Bible to be true, but still trying to exist in this environment. And I will tell you, even since the elections the other night, in which we just the city of New York just elected a horrifically far leftist, more far left than I've ever seen elected to public office in America, as mayor. And there's a lot of people that are worried about what's going to happen to the city and a whole bunch of other things. It won't be overnight, but decay happens when ideas change, and that's definitely something. I mean, not that Bloomberg and Giuliani were perfect prior to that, but there was at least some degree of consistency. And for a big city, that counts. So those of you that have written and said that you're praying for us, you consider us your missionaries to the Northeast. I'm very grateful for all of that. I don't think I'm worthy of any accolades, but I am grateful for those of you that have reached out and said that you're praying. So please know that that's always something that I cherish. That getting those notes and hearing those words. And there's just a lot going on that we could use your prayer for, so please continue that. We're talking about the president and his apology last night and what it really consists of. Is it a bona fide apology in your mind? This was the actual question as posed to him by NBC's Chuck Todd.
Do you feel like you owe these folks an apology for misleading them, even if you didn't intentionally do it? But at this point, they feel misled, and you've seen the anger that's out there.
I regret very much that what we intended to do, which is to make sure that everybody is moving into better plans because they want them, as opposed to because they're forced into it, we weren't as clear as we needed to be in terms of the changes that were taking place. And I want to do everything we can to make sure that people are finding themselves in a good position, a better position than they were before this law happened. Keep in mind that most of the folks who got these cancellation letters, they'll be able to get better care at the same cost or cheaper in these new marketplaces because they'll have more choice, they'll have more competition, they're part of a bigger pool. Insurance companies are going to be hungry for their business. So the majority of folks will end up being better off, of course, because the website's not working right. They don't necessarily know it right. But even though it's a small percentage of folks who may be disadvantaged, it means a lot to them and it's scary to them. And I am sorry that they are finding themselves in this situation based on assurances they got from me. We've got to work hard to make sure that they know we hear them and that we're going to do everything we can to deal with folks who find themselves in a tough position as a consequence of this.
All right, so that's the actual apology, the final statement there. Again, what I said in the last segment, he preempted it though. He preempted it with what? The same campaign tripe that he had been out there talking for years. Well, but they're going to get better plans for lower money and if they just sign up. And oh, by the way, it's only a little tiny percentage of people. Well, what is 5% of 330 million people? That's what, 18 million people? 5% of 330 million people, maybe closer to 20 million people, but it's right in that range. And what you're talking about is more people by almost double, then voted less for him in the second election. He had 9 million fewer votes in the re-election than he had in the first election, and that's never happened before. No one's ever won re-election to president with fewer votes than they got the first time around. He's the first one to do that. 9 million fewer was what he had. 18 million people, 5% of the American people. He's saying, well, it's just a tiny little percent. And then he says, I am sorry. And then where did he go from there? I am sorry that they experience this, and that we, the American government, will work hard to make sure that we know we hear them, and that we're going to do everything we can to deal with the folks who find themselves in a tough position as a consequence of this. Isn't that how we kind of got into this problem to begin with? That government was trying to say, well, we hear that you're in a tough situation, so we're going to try to fix it for you, which is not what government's designed to do. Government is the worst form of fixing any social or cultural problem that there is, because it has the least amount of morality attached to it, and it usually has the biggest amount of waste attached to it. That's why government shouldn't be problem solving. Government should adjudicate the laws, see to the security, and that's about it. Okay, I've put a lot of stuff out there. This is your chance to weigh in. What constitutes an apology? In your mind, how does an apology get crafted? 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Jonathan, who's in Iowa. Jonathan, you're up first on AFA Today with Kevin McCullough. Hi.
Hi. Well, I just had 2 comments on a question. Number 1, an apology is 5 parts. Number 1, I'm sorry. Number 2, I was wrong. Number 3, will you forgive me? And number 4, what can I do to make it better? And there's a 5th part I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But number 1, he's not going to make it better. He's lying through his teeth when he's saying he's going to make it better. He's only meaning more entitlements that will take care of you, that they get more power. And then my second
that
point
kind of
is
works out good for him that way, doesn't it? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we'll work even harder to make it better, meaning
right.
I'll assign
So
more bureaucrats to this, and I'll bring in
apology.
more people that can't do what they need to do to make it happen, and we'll make an even bigger mess of it.
Right. So, and then number 2 is he's not looking to fix the insurance problem in the United States, and it has nothing to do with people's health. It has everything to do with money. And if the American people want to believe that people are going to pay their bills for them, well, we're sunk. So, it's an American problem where people need to step up to the plate and take care of their own families and not be worse than infidels.
Yeah.
And
all
My
right.
question to you is I heard that, I don't know what the total number is, how many big corporations have gotten waivers for Obamacare? And of those numbers, what percentage of it has contributed to the Democratic Party? Because if it's 100%, they need to be impeached. For quid pro
Yeah,
quo
I don't know
fraud.
any of the stats on that, Jonathan. That's a numbers cruncher's question, and somebody that I do know that the number of waivers that have been granted are in the thousands now. Of course, how do you qualify for a waiver? No one really understands. I know that Congress voted itself in a waiver. I thought that was kind of interesting. Though I will say good for the congressman that said, no, we're not gonna take the waiver. We're going to enroll in Obamacare. We're gonna do what we're telling the American people that they have to do. Especially Republicans that did that. That's honorable. You're living under the same rule that you're providing for everybody else. But everybody that voted in favor of letting Congress not be required and held accountable to the parts of Obamacare that apply to them, no, that's not cool. That's not cool. And I know that it feeds the overall problem, which is that elected leaders believe there's kind of an elite sense of who they are. So because they're elite, they get to, have that say. And there's not really a desire to, slum it with the regular people because they're the elected leaders. And I keep having to remind them on a regular basis, and I know you do as well, that they work for us. They're not elite. They're our employees. They're collecting a paycheck by our good grace, by our permission. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's talk to CW in Texas. Hi, CW. You're on with Kevin McCullough. AFA Today on AFR Talk. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Listen, Obviously, his apology means nothing when there's no substance behind it. So that's kind of a mute point there. He says a lot of things, but he doesn't come through with any of them. And he enforces laws that he comes up with, but doesn't enforce the laws that are already on the books when he got there. But let me make you aware of something you may not be aware of. Right now, I'm a preacher in Robinson, Texas, and we've got a member of our church that has been hired on by Obamacare. And he's struggling with the fact that what they're doing is that they put them through a 2-week course, and there's about 450 of them here in Waco going through it at this very moment. They pay them for 8 hours a day at $10.49 an hour. They tell them that they don't want to hear their opinion on Obamacare. They don't care about their personal opinion. And once the 2 weeks is up, what they're going to do is they have to sign up for Obamacare. And then their job is going to be that when somebody can't get on the internet and sign up, they're supposed to walk them through it. So what I'm saying here is this is one little town in Texas, and if they're doing that in every town throughout the country,
right?
What it means is that the government is paying people to sign up, basically.
Right. No, exactly. CW, you're exactly right. And in fact, let me give you some information you may not be aware of, and thank you for your call. What your friend is doing, what your church member is doing there, is fulfilling the role of what the administration has titled being a navigator. And being a navigator in the Obamacare system means that you help people navigate the confusing mess that it is to try to find the program that's going to fit them. So when your friend signed up, not only is he getting paid, $80 a day for those 2 weeks to get the training, he's also going to have all kinds of access to private and sensitive information from people that are signing up, and he's going to have access to the hubs of where the information goes. Now, the incredible thing about this is, and this is kind of mind-blowing, but we touched on it last week, is that your friend, the person that goes to your church, may be a perfectly decent human being. That's wonderful. They're not putting any of the people that are going through this program and becoming navigators, they're not putting any of the people through that through criminal background checks. None. So you undoubtedly have tainted within every pool of people criminals, felons, who knows, information fraud specialists that are going to have access to the most wide-sweeping portal of information that the government has ever collected about the population. See, when the president said, "Well, the website didn't work so well, so we got to get that right," and I apologize to the tiny little percent of people that were the tiny little percent of people that were not able to get through or had their policies canceled. I apologize to you tiny people. I crush you, you tiny people. You're so tiny, I just crush you. When he's saying that, what nobody is understanding is that on the other side is these people are giving private sensitive information to people that are going through a 2-week training and then loading all that stuff up into the portal. The problem with the navigators, the friend of yours that's doing that, CW in Texas, the problem with him, to me, is much bigger than the website not working. Whatever. The website works, it doesn't work. Websites crash all the time. Just fix it. Don't hire the same company that built it to try to fix it again. Hire a different company that actually does a good job, but just fix it. That's an easy fix. My problem is that all the other things, and I think that the website has kind of become this target, kind of the punching bag to say, "Oh yeah, well, isn't it too bad that website didn't work?" Man, that was the only problem that Obamacare had, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Were there more problems? And I'm recalling that he promised it was going to cost us less, and on average it's costing $2,500 more per family. I'm reminded that he said more people would have coverage, and now 15 million people that had coverage are going to lose coverage. Add to that the vast majority of people that still haven't signed up for it. You got way more people out of coverage now than you started. And then when he apologizes, all it's for is the tiny little percentage that he keeps referring to as having substandard policies, and that's his way of saying, they're really too dumb to know what kind of insurance they should have. So I decided they should have this other kind of insurance where, men have birth control pills and abortions and mammograms, because that all matters to men's health insurance. 888-589-8840. What am I getting wrong? Am I misunderstanding his apology, or did you buy it? Did you, my good friend Steve Dace, who's heard on some of these stations in the evening, he tweeted yesterday. He said, "Hey, Mr. President, you're fully allowed to keep your apology if you like." Notice the play on words. You can keep your insurance if you like it. You can keep your apology if you like it. John in Virginia, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough on AFA Today. Glad you're with us. John in Virginia, are you there?
Yes, John. I'm here.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good.
Good for you. I'm glad. I've been focusing on this conversation that you've been having for the last 20 minutes, and I'm really perturbed about it as well. We do know.
John,
that,
do me a favor. I'm
yeah.
sorry to do this to you. I didn't realize I was so close to the break. Hold that thought. We're going to come right back to John in Virginia right out of this break. It is Kevin McCullough. This is AFA Today, and we are on AFR Talk every single day starting at 1 Eastern, 12 Central, and so glad that you're with us. Thank you for being here. 888-589-8840 or on Facebook.com, afatoday.com.